Pulumi Tech Talk. I am Scott Lowe with Pulumi. Today I am joined by Jowanza Joseph with StreamFT. Hi, Jowanza. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, hey, let's jump right into what viewers really want, and that is talking about Pulumi and how you're using it. So tell me a little bit about, your company, StreamFT, what you guys are doing, and then we'll get into the specifics of how you're using Pulumi.
Yeah, happy to do that. So StreamFT stands for Stream Financial Technology, but I just refer to it as Stream. So we'll do that for shortness, I guess. So Stream is an operating system for finance. So it's focused on connecting all the different software that a finance stack would use. So that includes like your accounts payable systems, your accounting systems, your accounts receivable systems, and then automating that workflow for accounting teams and for finance teams. So an example of something that might happen is you have a lot of invoices that you need to manage, and it has to go to kind of a specific person or maybe a specific group of people to get approved, and you can set that kind of automation up. Or say you have a lot of different data sources that you need to use in order to generate an invoice, then we can connect to those data sources and help you generate that invoice in the kind of native systems that you use. And so that's what we do. We were founded last year, so in 2022, and we were just kind of building momentum with our customers and hoping to grow from there.
That sounds like a really ambitious problem to tackle. My son works in accounts payable for a large corporation, and to hear him talk about like the 20 different systems that he has to log into to cut checks and, pay their vendors and all that kind of stuff. Sounds like you guys are on a mission to simplify all that, which is cool.
Trying. Yeah. It's not easy. I'll say that.
I am sure it is not, but hey, the best problems are the hard ones, right? The ones you need to solve. So tell me about how Stream is using Pulumi.
Yeah, so we're primarily on AWS, but we have kind of a small footprint on GCP. And so we use Pulumi primarily for infrastructure as code. So just managing, infrastructure across those two clouds. And we kind of plug it into our CI/CD, which we use GitHub Actions. And so that's primarily the way we're using it. We got some forward-looking things that we want to do, but that's how we're using it today, mostly in IAC, on GCP and AWS.
Gotcha. What kinds of resources, if you're able to share, are you managing with Pulumi on these clouds?
Yeah, so in GCP, it is primarily Firebase as what we're using over there, and all the networking that goes along with that and permissions. And then on AWS, we are primarily using ECS, so that's kind of our container orchestration system. So we use Pulumi for that. And then we have a lot of databases in AWS as well. So we use Aurora, Postgres, and then we've got some Lambda functions. We've got API gateways. We've got, all of your more monitoring tools. So like CloudWatch logs. And so, and then, all of our like Route 53 stuff. So anything in AWS, we try to do it with Pulumi. It's one of the things that attracted us to it. It's just a little bit easier not a little bit, a lot easier than some of the alternatives we started with. So we've been really happy with it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it sounds like you get a really great mix of resources. You got some serverless, you got some managed services, you got some networking all tied together with Pulumi. Why don't you share with the viewers, like, what languages are you using with Pulumi? Did you guys standardize on a single language, or you're kind of mixing and matching, or what?
Yeah, we standardize on a single language. So we're TypeScript. We looked at doing some Python as well, because we do have some Python in our stack, and we try to kind of keep the languages one-to-one. But I think what's the best way to explain that? The TypeScript, it just seems kind of natural. It's like it feels very idiomatic. And so even on the Python projects, we use our TypeScript SDK for Python there. So we've been really happy with TypeScript and Pulumi.
Yeah, the Pulumi TypeScript SDK is very mature. It was the first, if not one of the first SDKs that Pulumi introduced when they came out of stealth. This is before I joined the company several years ago, right? Is when they came out of stealth. But TypeScript was first, and actually that's the language that I started with as well when I first started using Pulumi as a user before I joined the company. I was also using TypeScript, so I totally get what you're feeling there. I've since switched to Go. It just kind of fits for me, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely, the beautiful thing about Pulumi is that like you guys can make that decision, right? Like you have the option of saying, well, if we want to write in Python because this is a Python based service that we're working with, you can, but you also have the option of saying, I'm going to standardize on TypeScript and then go from there.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've liked about Pulumi, like even being in the Slack, like the community Slack. Is sometimes people will post, a Go or Python example, and they're having some issues, and I'll look at it and kind of translate it to what it would be in TypeScript, and then usually it's helpful. So it's like the SDKs, I'm assuming, are all coming from some kind of one origin, and then being broken out because it seems like it all sort of pretty interoperable across the language stacks.
Yeah, they actually are all generated from the same sources. So
That makes
there's a
sense.
back end piece that generates all the SDKs, and then we spit out, the Python SDKs, the TypeScript SDK, the Golang SDK, that kind of stuff is all just generated from that one source, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, at Stream now, how are you and your users, your development teams, how are you consuming Pulumi? Is it like every developer sort of writes their own thing, or do you have a central team, i.e. you, that
Yeah.
is writing stuff and sharing it, via maybe, npm JS or as TypeScript libraries, or like what's that look like for you all?
Yeah, so it's kind of been a little bit of a journey. I would say the beginning, it was every man for himself, every man or woman or otherwise for themselves, and it worked okay. We had some issues with some of the importing, exporting, and then some of the naming conventions there, and so then we standardized on, okay, we want to still allow everyone to have their own way of doing it, but for import export stuff, if you want to try to do a named import, then this is how it should look, because we were sometimes changing them and kind of pulling things out from the rugs of other stacks, and that's no good. So I would say we're still there where we have some conventions about how we write our Pulumi, but yeah, we're still kind of not that mature. But the thing that's nice is, even though we don't have that much maturity, it's still working really well. We're able to release quickly. We're able to fix bugs when they happen, or issues with infrastructure when they happen, very rapidly. And that's kind of what we optimize for, more so than the best software or most kind of idiomatic approach. So that's I think I have mixed feelings as the team is growing, and it's kind of seeming like maybe some platforming of it, and having some standardized packages, standardized templates might be good, but I think it's a real trade-off, because there's people discover new things by just having a lot more freedom, and that those have been good for the company overall. So I kind of go back and forth on it, and then I don't have a lot of time to really standardize, so it's worked out okay, I would say.
Yeah, no, sure, I get it. I mean, and it's really just, it's a matter of scale.
Yeah.
There are some natural scales where having some sort of central platform team that generates, whether it be templates or components or whatever the case may be, right? Generating these reusable artifacts for the rest of the development teams, where that makes sense. And then there are some scales where hey, it's fine, because of the nature of the what's being developed, or the nature of the development teams, that they work independently. So I guess the beautiful thing, as you pointed out, is that Pulumi is flexible enough to be able to accommodate either of those approaches. And in your case, sounds like Stream is sort of mixing and matching, and using whichever approach makes the most sense in whatever instance.
Yeah, and I would say, like, with the AWS package with Pulumi, it's got some nice opinions kind of baked into it already. So if you just kind of start out with that, you start in a good spot. But yeah, overall, I agree that there's the reusable artifacts are valuable, because there are small things where just how to set up a log group correctly, and like what the naming convention is for things that just get lost. And whenever there's an outage or something, you kind of go looking for the right log group, and it's named something different than the others. And there's problems like that creep up. But as far as doing things securely and repeatably, a lot of the base packages and whatnot are pretty high quality, and they've gotten us really far, for a lot of people that didn't know anything about infrastructure. So I've been a DevOps engineer before, so I kind of brought these opinions into the company, but everyone else was pretty scared of the cloud or worried about doing things insecurely. But just a handful of rules and a handful of trainings and everyone's kind of up and running and comfortable, spinning up a container, making a new ECR registry, that they feel comfortable with that now because, it's abstracted in a way that's clear and that they can just kind of test. And I would say that the cycle of, being able to try something and then get it deployed and then move forward is just so much faster than, we were seeing before when we were trying to do, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but like we were trying to do CDK and things, and it just was really slow and it's cumbersome, and this is just a lot faster, more dynamic, and so I think overall for the team, it's just been great. And yeah, I've been talking too much. I'll stop for a second.
No, you're fine. You're totally fine. It's great to hear, sort of that feedback. And I think other customers and folks who are trying out Pulumi or thinking about trying out Pulumi need to hear from folks like yourselves where, you can say, hey, it's been helpful for us to be able to iterate faster, and determine, like, is this approach going to work? Yes. Okay. Now we can move forward with that and possibly move it into production, or no, it's not. Okay. Let's kill that and find something that does. Right. But just being able to speed up that development loop has a number of benefits in just a variety of ways. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. I can think of so many examples off the top of my head where, we just wanted to try DynamoDB, and it's like, okay, copy and paste the snippet or use Pulumi AI and you've got a table. And it's just, it's just so robust and quick. And then, just, delete your stack and it's gone if you don't want to have it. And it's just a very developer friendly, I would say, ecosystem. So I've been really happy with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about, you mentioned that in terms of, like, the benefits you've seen from using Pulumi. We were just talking that one of those is that faster development loop, being able to try things out, get to a place of being able to say, okay, now does this actually help our our product? Is this something we can use? Whatever the case may be. Okay, it isn't, fine, destroy the stack, we're done. So one benefit you've seen has been that rapid development loop and being able to, iterate very quickly. But what other sort of benefits has your team seen, or Stream as a company seen from adopting Pulumi for infrastructure as code with your products?
Yeah, I would say two major ones. So one is our CI/CD. So in GitHub Actions, previously, what we were doing, every action was just like 600 lines of just
Ouch.
interoper, between AWS and whatnot, and now it's just 15 lines, something like that. We've got to install Node.js, and then we just say, Pulumi up, and that's it. And just that alone is a huge value, because debugging these things is not fun and not a good use of time. So that's been, at least for me as the person running engineering, it's paid its weight. That alone is enough for me to be happy, because it was really painful before. And yeah, there's a lot of failure modes, and Pulumi just kind of reduce those. The second thing I would say is on the productivity from all the developers. So before, I was kind of a bottleneck for this DevOps piece and deployment piece. So if you wanted to change your password in Aurora, or if anything you wanted to do, I probably had to touch it, and so that would just kind of pile up on my desk, and it would slow us down and slow us from releasing. And I don't have a good quantification of it, but it's just now the expectation is, work being completed includes you doing infrastructure. And so now everyone's empowered to do it. We don't have this bottleneck. We don't have features that are almost released, but awaiting Jowanza's, final push. And now it's much more where DevOps is a culture or a practice and not a person, which is, I don't know how to measure that or how to quantify that, but it's been really life-changing, because I can go and leave for a week, or someone else can leave for a week, and we can all understand the cloud a lot better. Like, it's just enabled this cloud understanding that's just a lot higher than anyone was able to achieve before. So yeah, I wish I had like a better saying of like, oh, it increased the developer productivity by 40%. I can't put a number quite on it, but I can just say that everyone's empowered. We're moving faster and moving better, because we just have a more potent tool and an easier to understand tool for managing the cloud for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, obviously it's always great to be able to provide, sort of quantitative measurements of increasing, the number of deployments by X or decreasing deployment time by X, whatever. But I mean, I think, clearly stating that like, hey, I recognize that there was a bottleneck before, and now that bottleneck's gone. Now we have, a variety of people who are cleared to deploy because we have a consistent tool. It's a tool everybody understands. It's a tool everybody uses. And now we can just move faster, right? So I
Yep.
think that's helpful. And as your point about like dramatically simplifying the
Yeah.
CI setup, I mean that's a huge piece of tech debt that is now taken off your plate that you don't have to worry about anymore. So that is definitely something I think probably is overlooked, right? Is
Yep.
how how Pulumi was designed to work in CI environments and now makes those CI environments much easier, much more simple.
Exactly. Yep.
So not to hold you to anything you're going to say next, but like what is Stream looking ahead to with Pulumi? Like what are the things on the horizon that you'd like to try and tackle with Pulumi?
Yeah. So, yeah, one of the things that is kind of coming up over and over with some of our customers, you mentioned earlier, yeah, I think you said you had a son that works in accounts payable, and one of the things that the customers want to do is be able to bring their own data. So, say, hey, I've got this database full of usage, and I'm billing based on usage. Can you just connect to this database? And we've got some reservations about that, and what we prefer is kind of absorbing the data. And so, what that would look like is, we would provision a database, just for this kind of transaction of pulling that from one database into another. And so, for that whole process, we want to use Pulumi to automate, like spinning up a database, providing the connection credentials, doing a database migration. Yeah, database migration with the AWS database migration tool, excuse me, and doing that whole cycle. So it's because we can kind of use Pulumi within like a software process or within an API call, or maybe something more asynchronously. We're planning it right now, but that's the goal, is to just say, okay, we can spin this up, we can do this data transfer, we can do our analysis, we can do a tear down, all automated, and then we can just kind of provide this secure environment to do that. So that's what we're looking at, just outside of traditional IAC, and more as within a software process, using Pulumi to provision the infrastructure for that, because it's got this ephemeral nature to it.
Yeah, it's so funny that you started talking, and the first thing that popped in my head was automation API, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
for folks who aren't familiar with Pulumi, what we're talking about here is what Jowanza was just saying, is that is from within like another program, like a regular TypeScript or Golang or whatever program, being able to have methods and functions and all that actually will orchestrate Pulumi operations.
Yep.
So in addition, providing the automation of standing up a database and this kind of stuff, but being able to orchestrate, okay, stand up the database, and that's a stack or a process. Now do the database migration, and that's a process. Now do this. Okay, now tear all these things down. Okay, now you're
Yeah.
done, right? That's the automation API, which is the ability to drive Pulumi from another program, and it's super powerful. So that's cool. I really love that you guys are looking at that, and I consistently believe that automation API is probably one of the most unsung heroes of the Pulumi lineup.
It
Of being
really is.
able to, of just being able to like drive Pulumi and Pulumi orchestration from within a program, just to write a straight up, like I said, I work mostly in Golang, but write a straight up Golang program that like, oh, okay, here, we'll go create these stacks, go run an update on these stacks, go do whatever it is you're going to do with outputs or resources or whatever, and now go tear them down, right? And that's just
Yep.
super powerful.
Yeah. It's
All right.
it's incredible.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks for hopping on today, Jowanza. I really appreciate it. Thank you for talking about Stream's use of Pulumi and kind of what you guys are looking forward to. It's been great. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Yeah. Me too. Thank you for having me on, and best of luck.
All right. Thank you so much.